Now it's Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Well, a couple of times a year, our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, is obliged to invite her principal and his wife over for dinner. On these occasions, the fact that she's extremely fond of Mrs. Conklin and feels rather differently about her principal presents a problem.
Yes. How to sprinkle ground glass in the food without getting them both. I was expecting the Conklins and Mr. Boynton for dinner last Thursday evening, but much to my surprise, Mrs. Conklin came over as I was finishing breakfast that morning.
Good morning, Miss Brooks.
Why, Mrs. Conklin, aren't you a little early? Dinner won't be ready for 11 hours yet.
Oh, it's nothing like that. I had to see you before you went to school today. Oh, Miss Brooks, ever since you mentioned that beaver stole to me 10 days ago, I've decided I wanted it for Christmas more than I wanted anything for a long time.
Well, I think you should have it, Mrs. Conklin.
And so do I. After being married to Osgood for 20 years, I think I deserve a fur piece.
After being married to Osgood for 20 years, you deserve the Brooklyn Bridge. You certainly do.
Well, in the last 10 days, I've tried everything to get it. However, the day before yesterday, I hit upon the perfect solution to my entire problem. But I'm going to need your help. I simply want you to give this special delivery letter to Osgood. It came after he left the house this morning.
That's all you want me to do?
Certainly. The contents of this letter from his cousin really ought to do the trick.
But how do you know the contents?
I wrote it.
You wrote it? Why, I had no idea you were his cousin, too.
Oh, Miss Brooks, Mr. Conklin's cousin is in on this little hoax with me. She sent this letter from Cedarville, where we were married. You see, I asked myself when was the only time Osgood ever gave me everything I wanted. Then I remembered it was when he was courting me, so I decided to have him court me all over again.
But how are you going to manage that?
Well, I got the idea from a movie I saw a few years ago. You see, this letter says that recently it was discovered that the justice of the peace who married us had done so without a license. So, technically, we're not married. Of course, Osgood will try to remarry me, and that's when I have him over a barrel.
I see. Well, it sounds fine, but there might be one possible catch.
What's that, Miss Brooks?
He might enjoy being over the barrel so much you might never get him off.
But, Daddy, I don't think a fur stole is asking for so much. After all, Mother has worked and slaved for us both all these years. Well, you have no idea the hardships she's had to endure.
As soon as I get home, remind me to unstrap her from in front of the plow. Harriet, your mother doesn't know the meaning of the word work. Apparently, all she knows is how to ask for things.
Oh, but, Daddy, sure.
No sooner does she learn I'm making $300 extra by going on a lecture tour for Mr. Stone than she wants a fur stole. Now, if you'll excuse me, Harriet, I can't think of anyone I'd rather converse with less at the moment. Who is it?
Miss Brooks, sir.
I spoke too soon. To my inner office, please, Harriet.
But, Daddy, can't I wait?
Vamoose, Vixen.
All right.
Come in, Miss Brooks.
Good morning, Mr. Conklin.
What is it, Miss Brooks? Please be as brief as possible. As you can see, I have a desk piled high with paper.
Yes, sir. Those crossword puzzles do pile up if you don't get... I have a letter for you, sir. Your wife called and asked me if I'd drop it off. She thought it might be important. It's from your cousin in Cedarville.
Special delivery. Marked urgent. Goodness, I haven't heard from my cousin in 5 years. The last time she wrote me, her letter contained extremely bad news. Let me see. Oh, I dread reading it. Well, might as well get it over with. Good.
Must be terrible news, huh? Awful news. Simply dreadful, huh? Horrible? Woo-hoo! no idea the news could be that bad.
Miss Brooks, I'm not married.
That's terrible, sir. Simply terrible. What happened?
Well, it seems there was a little mistake about my marriage, Miss Brooks. A remarkable little mistake. It seems the justice of the peace who married us wasn't really a justice of the peace at all.
Then who was he?
The best friend a man ever had.
I'm dead. Oh, but, sir, this is dreadful. Simply dreadful. After all these years. Well, you must remarry at once.
But who?
I'm Mrs. Conklin, that's who.
Oh, it's great to be single. My pockets will jingle in the Miss Brooks, I feel like a bird who's just been let out of his cage. A convict who's just been released from jail.
Oh, if Mr. Boynton's anywhere around, I'm cooked. So then I suppose you and Mrs. Conklin won't be coming over for dinner tonight.
I and Martha Flyshacker will be delighted. You'll be delighted to come for dinner?
Martha Flyshacker?
My wife's maiden name.
No wonder she changed it to Conklin. Then you are coming over, sir?
Oh, certainly, certainly. I can't wait to get together with Boynton and discuss the good old single life.
Well, if you must discuss it, Mr. Conklin, at least don't do it in the presence of Mrs. Davis.
Why not, Miss Brooks?
The way things stand now, she's the only one left who might marry me. Well, Mrs. Conklin's hoax to convince our principal that they were never really married, and thereby get a fur coat when he recourted her, backfired rather badly. So all morning long, I did my best to keep Mr. Boynton away from our ecstatic principal. The last time I stopped him occurred as he was leaving his laboratory just before noon. Why, Mr. Boynton, where are you going with those rabbit cages this time of day?
Well, I didn't think you'd mind if I took my rabbits, Henry and George, to lunch with us, Miss Brooks.
Not at all, Mr. Boynton. Maybe one of them will pick up the check.
It will certainly save me a trip. Otherwise, I'd have to come all the way back here with them after I see Mr. Conklin.
After you see Mr. Conklin?
Yes. I wanted to see the condition these cages are in. It's the only way I can persuade him to give me the money for some new ones.
Oh, well, today's the wrong day for that.
You said that to me twice before today about two other things. It almost seems as if you don't want me to see him.
Oh, now, Mr. Boynton, wherever did you get such a fantastic idea? Why shouldn't I want you to see him?
Oh, I don't know why. The few times I did catch sight of him today, he seemed excited and happy about something. I wonder what it is. Oh, well, I'll probably find out about it when I see him at your house tonight.
Tonight? Oh, I knew there was something I had to tell you, Mr. Boynton. The dinner for tonight has been canceled. Mrs. Davis is very ill.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry, Miss Brooks. Must have come on quite suddenly. What is it, flu? Virus? Bronchitis?
That's right.
Which one is it?
Take your pick. It's the flu, Mr. Boynton. So, of course, we won't be able to make it, but any other night would be just fine.
Hi, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, hello, Walter.
Boy, wait till you hear the latest about old Marblehead. Mr. Conklin. He's declared tomorrow a half holiday and commissioned one of the kids to go out and buy up all the fireworks he can find. Everyone thinks that Mr. Conklin's finally snapped his cap.
You mean he's crazy?
Yeah, as screwy as a hopped-up cucaracha and a bowl of hot chili. Oh, by the way, Miss Brooks, Harriet told me if I ran into you that Mr. Conklin wanted to see you. There's something about canceling his date with you tonight. But be careful when you go into his office.
Well, perhaps I'd better go along with you, Miss Brooks, in case he gets violent.
Oh, don't worry about me, Mr. Boynton. I have a way with violent men. And if you don't believe me, please try me sometime.
Oh, it's great to be single. My pockets will jingle. Principal's office. Osgood Conklin himself speaking. Over.
Hello, Osgood. This is Mr. Stone.
Oh, yes, Mr. Stone. How are you, sir?
Conklin, I just had a thought that should make you very happy. how would you like to take Mrs. Conklin along on your lecture tour? Conklin? Hello? Conklin, can you hear me?
I'm afraid I can.
What happened? Were you cut off?
Only my windpipe. that is, I was choked with happiness.
Good, good.
Mr. Stone, is it absolutely essential that I take Mrs. Conklin along? I mean to say
Yes,
that...
Conklin, it is essential. Is your wife free to go?
Sir, she's been free to go for the past 20 years. I mean, yes, of course she is.
Then she goes along regardless of what. Those are orders.
Yes, sir, regardless of what. Goodbye, sir. Well, Osgood, I guess there's no other choice. It's delightful to be married. To be married. Lily? Come in.
Mr. Conklin, I understand you want to cancel the dinner engagement at my house. I guess you've decided to go out on the town to celebrate your newly found freedom.
Freedom? Oh, it's true, Miss Brooks. I did have some wild thoughts when you first handed me that letter this morning, but after a little sober reflection, there's nothing I want more than to be welcomed back into the warmth, comfort, and security of my happy little prison. Home, home.
Well, there's nothing standing in your way, is there, sir?
Oh, well, frankly, there is little something. In my momentary exuberance this morning, I called my wife and said some things that may have annoyed her a teensy-weensy bit.
A teensy-weensy bit.
She said she'd never speak to me again. Miss Brooks, I know you have some influence with her. I'm sure you could help me win her back.
Oh, I don't know, Mr. Conklin. You know what they say about a woman scorned. Only a beaver stole can unscorn her.
Beaver stole?
There's a beauty on special for only $200. You do want her back in the next few weeks, don't you?
The next few weeks, I want her back at once. Not only do I love her, but Mr. Stone will cancel my lecture tour if you...
Oh, I think I'm beginning to understand the urgency.
I did let the cat out of the bag, didn't I, Miss Brooks?
You let the cat out and the beaver in. See you at my house at 7, sir. Well, by 7 o'clock that night at my house, we were about ready to receive Mr. Conklin. Now, do we have our signal straight, Mrs. Conklin?
Well, I think so, Miss Brooks, but are you sure Osgood will come?
Of course he will, Martha. And don't worry, you'll get that beaver yet.
Mrs. Conklin, would Mr. Boynton be here now if I weren't sure of your husband's attitude? Believe me, it was difficult to convince him that Mrs. Davis had recovered after I told him she had the flu earlier today.
Oh, that explains it. I was wondering why he came in wearing a gauze mask before he...
Now, do you feel a little more confident, Mrs. Conklin?
Well, I guess so. Oh, my, I wonder if Phyllis Stone is having the same trouble with Mr. Stone.
Phyllis Stone?
Yes, Margaret. I told her about my marriage hoax, and she's trying the same trick to get a fur stole from Mr. Stone.
What? If this thing keeps spreading, we're all liable to wind up on Dragnet next week. Now,
Oh, goodness. That must be Osgood now.
Remember what I told you. Play hard to get. Mrs. Davis, would you mind going into the kitchen and sending in Mr. Boynton? I want him to be a witness to Love's Old Sweet Song.
All right, dear. And in the meantime, I'll finish preparing dinner.
Now, we'll be right back, Mrs. Conklin.
Good evening, Miss Brooks.
Why, Mr. Beaver. Mr. Conklin. Come in, sir.
Now then, where is she, Miss Brooks? Where is my lovely, blushing child bride? Never mind, I know where she is.
Hello, Osgood.
Poopsie girl. Angel eyes. I'm back. Your Osgood is back. But what is this doctor doing with you?
Oh, you can take off the gauze mask now, Mr. Boynton. The flu bug is in the kitchen.
Oh, yes, of course.
Did you want to say something to me, Osgood?
Indeed, I do, Lotus Blossom. I didn't mean a thing I said on the phone this morning. Not a thing. I want to remarry you more than anything else in the world. Look, the peach face. Your Osgood wants you back more than he can tell you. He needs you back. Say the word and we'll be remarried tonight.
Say the word?
The common household word is beaver. Say it and you win the first soul plus a year's supply of morsels.
Well, it's true, Osgood. You know how I've wanted a fur piece all these years.
Well, then you shall have it. You shall have anything you want. Only please say you will remarry me at once.
Are you taking notes, Mr. Boynton? No sacrifice is too great when two people are really in love, is it?
Apparently not, Miss Brooks.
Oh, well, who can that be?
Don't get your hopes up. They couldn't get the beaver over that quickly. I'd better see who it is. Mr. Stone.
Miss Brooks, is Mr. Conklin here? His daughter said I'd find him here. I must see him at once.
Yes, sir. Come in. He's right in the living room.
Well, Mr. Stone, what is it, sir? Something wrong at school?
Oh, nothing like that, Osgood. I'm not married. I just found out about it. And with you living so close, I thought I'd tell you first. The justice of the peace who married us 25 years ago had no legal right to perform the ceremony. I'm free! After all these years, magnificently, wonderfully free.
And you're delighted about it?
Well, wouldn't you be if the same thing happened to you?
Mr. Boynton, put back your gauze mask. The place has gotten contagious again.
Wouldn't I be if the same thing happened to me?
You're not going to let this interfere with the beaver stole, are you, Osgood?
Mr. Conklin, Miss Flyshacker.
Then your wife isn't getting the beaver stole?
My dear Miss Brooks, somewhere in the snowy wastes of Greenland, a poor, unfortunate beaver will be killed. But as far as my ex-wife is concerned, he will have given his life in vain.
Your ex-wife?
Yes, Mr. Stone, by a remarkably odd coincidence, my marriage is also invalid, and for precisely the same reason as yours.
You mean your justice of the peace isn't really a justice of the peace either?
I prefer to remember him as a great humanitarian.
Well, Mrs. Conklin, I'm afraid you'll have to bring up your heavy artillery.
Oh, I'm afraid you're right, Miss Brooks. Osgood, I have a little confession to make. I had that letter sent to you. It was a hoax. We've been married all this time.
My, what an unusual way to go down on one's knees.
A hoax? Mrs. Conklin, may I ask a question?
You might as well. There's plenty of room down there for all.
It was about Mrs. Stone, Charlie. You're still married to her and always have been.
So we're both still married. I guess the joke is on both of us, eh, Mr. Stone? Seems your wife is still...
Keep my beloved wife out of this. Oh, you must be quite a miserly tyrant, Conklin. Otherwise, why should your poor wife have to resort to such pitiful measures to obtain that which is rightfully hers?
But I fully intend to buy her that beaver stole.
This time, let's put it in writing. Well, you see, Mr. Boynton, even though married couples do have little... Mr. Boynton? Mr. Boynton?
He sneaked out to the kitchen 5 minutes ago, Miss Brooks.
Well, after all this talk about marriage, I don't blame him for going out there.
Why? What do you mean?
Flu and all, at her age, Mrs. Davis is the safest bet.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, was produced and directed by Larry Burns, written by Arthur Alsberg and Al Lewis with the music of Lud Bluskin. Mr. Conklin was played by Gail Gordon. This program came to you from the Prestwick Studios of the American Forces Network Europe and was prepared for rebroadcast over this network by specialist Rich Kuhlman.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Well, with the Christmas holidays so close at hand, our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, is faced with a few problems common to many of us. First, she still has all her Christmas shopping to do, and second, she has very little time to do it in.
And third, she has no money to do it with. At least I have very little money. $20 to be exact. And considering the people I usually give presents to, I knew that wouldn't go very far. After thinking it over for a while, however, I arrived at the only possible solution to my dilemma, which I conveyed to my landlady at breakfast last Wednesday morning.
Then you're going to spend the entire $20 on a gift for Mr. Boynton, Connie?
Yes, it's the only thing I can do, Mrs. Davis. I think I should be able to get him a nice gift for $20. It's better than giving a number of my friends a lot of trash. Don't you agree?
I suppose so, dear. I know I certainly didn't expect anything from you.
Well, I'm glad.
After all, what difference does it make that I cook your meals all year round? That I make up your room every day? That I never badger you for the rent when you get 6 weeks behind? Or that I'm constantly helping you with your problems as if you were my own daughter? I do it out of the goodness of my heart. And I certainly don't expect anything in return.
If I crawled under the rug, I wouldn't even make a bump. But, Mrs. Davis, we agreed we wouldn't exchange presents this year.
Of course we did, Connie. So you stick to our agreement. After all, what difference does it make if I happen to forget and ordered you a beautiful gift?
You ordered me a gift?
Oh, dear, it slipped out.
Well, slip it back in. Perhaps it wasn't as much of a sacrifice for you as...
What difference does it make that I far exceeded my budget to get it for you? So I'll just eat a little less for the next 6 months. Just because the spirit of the season has swept me away doesn't mean it has to sweep you, too.
Sweep me? It might easily clean me out. Well, I suppose I actually should give you a gift, too, since we're so close.
Now, dear, you'll do no such thing. Don't give it another thought.
Well, all right, but...
I've been getting along perfectly well, squeezing oranges by hand for another year. Just because I can hardly straighten out my poor fingers when I'm through is no concern of yours.
Then you want a finger straightener. An orange juice squeezer.
Why, Connie, how did you know?
It was just a wild guess.
But the $10 they wanted cherries is much more than I'll let you spend.
Well, then I won't.
So if you'll just give me $7 cash, I'll get the squeezer at McGinty's Sales Company. I happen to have an exclusive introductory credit card there. It's the only thing that lets you in, and it entitles you to a third off on everything.
As I say, I should be able to get Mr. Boynton a nice gift for $13. I'll give you the money as soon as I get my bag.
Thanks, dear. Now I'll tell you what I got for you. It's something I felt was very personal.
Something personal? What is it?
A chess set.
A chess set?
Yes. I know how Mr. Boynton loves the game, and it'll give you two something to do together on those long winter evenings. That is, if you know how the game goes.
Certainly, right out the window. It was very thoughtful of you, Mrs. Davis. Oh, there's Walter to drive me to school. Be right out, Walter. I'd better be going, Mrs. Davis.
All right, dear. Well, I intend to do the rest of my shopping this morning, so I'll drop off your present at school. Maybe you and Mr. Boynton can use it in the cafeteria at lunch.
We might at that. Those chessmen ought to taste a lot more tender than the rest of the food. Walter, is it my imagination, or are you driving more carefully today?
I was hoping you'd notice, dear teacher. Yeah, I'm driving particularly carefully today. You see, as part of her Christmas present, my mother gave me new bumpers for this car.
What happened? and pedestrians finally wear out your old ones? Well, that was a thoughtful gift, but isn't it a little early to be receiving Christmas presents?
Oh, no, ma'am. No, indeed. I must have received 3/4 of my gifts already, particularly from my close friends at school. Oh, yeah, they've already given me their gifts. 3/4 of them. Maybe even 7/8. As a matter of fact, I can only think of 1 or 2 who haven't.
Matter of fact, I think I'll get out and walk.
Oh, nothing like the spirit of giving at Christmas, is there? You know, of course, a kid like me who operates on a limited budget can only exchange gifts with his nearest relatives and his closest and most intimate friends. Isn't that so, Miss Brooks?
It certainly is, stranger. That is, in essence, I agree with you, Walter. But the truth of the matter is, I only have $13 for my Christmas shopping. That leaves me with just enough money for a gift for Mr. Boynton. Now, do you understand?
I guess I do. Well, I certainly didn't expect anything from you, Miss Brooks.
I'm glad.
So
because-
after all, what difference does it make that I pick you up and drive you to school every day all year round? Or that I spend half of my time at school running errands for you? You do whatever you want to, Miss Brooks. But no one else is going to receive the beautiful present that I selected for you.
You bought me a present? Already?
Now, please forget about it, will you?
All right, then.
Yeah, after all, I'm getting enough gifts without that $7 briefcase of cherries that I've wanted more than anything else in the world.
Walter, I'd like to buy the briefcase for you, but $7 is rather high.
Oh, much too high, Miss Brooks. So I wouldn't let you spend that much money for anything.
Good.
So if you give me $5 in cash, I'll get the same thing at McGinty's.
As I say, $8 ought to buy a fine gift for Mr. Boynton.
Yeah, I have an exclusive introductory credit card at McGinty's. Everything at 1/3 off. It's the only card that'll let you in.
At the moment, that isn't what worries me.
No? What does then, Miss Brooks?
Does McGinty print a card that will let me out? Walter, there's no reason to sneak past Mr. Conklin's office, even if we are 5 minutes late.
But, Miss Brooks, you know how Mr. Conklin feels about such things. What would you say if he suddenly did step out of his office now?
Good morning, Miss Brooks.
Does that answer your question, Walter? Miss Conklin, I realize we're a little late, sir, but if you'll only...
Tut, my dear. Don't give it a second thought. I'm delighted to give my students and faculty a little latitude this time of year. It's the Christmas season, and I'm filled with the spirit of peace on earth and goodwill to all men.
Well, it's nice of you to extend it to females and young boys.
Not at all, Miss Brooks. Now, will you come into my office, please? I have something to ask you.
But, sir, I'm 5 minutes late
And
now.
you'll be 5 minutes later. Into my office.
Yes, sir. See you later, Walter.
Yeah, bye, Miss Brooks.
Now, sit down, my dear. Sit right down, and I'll get directly to the point. I want some advice from you, Miss Brooks.
Some advice?
Yes, about a gift. I'm doing my Christmas shopping this afternoon. I want you to be sure to tell me what you want before I leave.
But, sir, I didn't think you approved of faculty members exchanging gifts.
Oh, I don't, Miss Brooks. It's just that I happen to be imbued with the spirit of giving, the spirit of Christmas. And if I choose to remember my teachers, I certainly don't expect any gifts in return.
Good.
Of course, if my teachers insist on showing their appreciation for the many little favors I've done for them in the past, I'm powerless to stop them.
I'm hooked. I was wondering what I could get you for Christmas, sir. Could you give me a suggestion? Something you particularly needed or wanted for about 50 cents.
My dear, I want you to forget we've even mentioned the word gifts this morning. Dismiss it from your mind. Besides, I smoke too much anyway.
Smoke?
Yes, and $10 is too much for anyone to pay for the alligator tobacco pouch I've always wanted.
Well, sir, I'd certainly like to get it for you, but that is rather expensive.
$10 is far, far too expensive. I wouldn't dream of letting you spend that much money.
Well, I'm glad because
So if you have the money with you, I know just where I can get it for $7.
Murdered again by McGinty's.
Here we are, Miss Brooks. My dessert and coffee. And I brought you a piece of pineapple pie a la mode.
Why, Mr. Boynton, what a thoughtful Christmas present.
Christmas present?
Well, it's exactly what I've always wanted. You shouldn't have gone to all that extra expense.
What extra expense?
The pineapple pie would have been enough. You should have kept the a la mode for my birthday. Pineapple pie a la mode. As I always say, Mr. Boynton, let the other women get their mink coats and pearl necklaces. Just give me a gift that touches you right in the heart.
Oh, I get it now. You're joking.
I was afraid you'd see it that way. But, Mr. Boynton, this actually would be enough. After all, it's the spirit of giving that counts rather than the gift itself.
Not entirely, Miss Brooks. True, the spirit must be there, but the gift is important, too. I've ordered you a beautiful gift. I know how you are about giving gifts of equal value, and I wouldn't want to disappoint you.
You picked a fine time to start. That is, it's very thoughtful of you, Mr. Boynton. Very thoughtful. Particularly since I joined the Christmas Club a year ago and put away $1 a week just for your gift.
$52? For my present?
$52.75. They pay interest. But just because we've given each other gifts of equal value in the past, I don't want that to influence you this Christmas.
$52?
Uh-huh. And that, combined with the $30 I borrowed from Mrs. Davis, ought to buy you a very nice gift.
Miss Brooks, I've just been thinking.
I hope you've been thinking what I think you've been thinking. Yes, Mr. Boynton?
Well, after all, it really is the spirit of giving that counts rather than the gift itself.
You've convinced me. Here, this package is for you, and Merry Christmas.
For me? You got this for me? Must I wait for Christmas, or may I open it now? What's inside, Miss Brooks?
Yes, yes, no, yes, chess.
A chess set. What a wonderful present.
Well, I was going to get you a few more gifts, but since you convinced me...
Hi, Miss Brooks. Hi, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, hello, Harriet.
Mr. Boynton, Daddy wants to see you in his office right away. Something about signing a requisition for some test tubes you wanted.
Thank you, Harriet.
And, Miss Brooks, your landlady called, and she wants you to call back when you can. Now, let's see. Is there someone I've forgotten?
Better look under the table to make sure. Did Mrs. Davis say what she wanted me to call her about?
No, but she said she'd keep a receiver off the hook so a line would be open when you call.
There's something wrong with that, but offhand, I don't know just what.
Well, I'd better get up to Mr. Conklin's office and get that requisition signed. Thanks again for the gift, Miss Brooks. It really was quite unexpected.
Yes, for both of us. I mean, both of us may use it.
Of course. Well, see you later, Miss Brooks.
I'll walk to the phone with you, Miss Brooks.
All right, Harriet. Well, how has Santa been treating you so far, dear?
Oh, not too badly. Walter gave me a slave bracelet, but I don't think I'll wear it.
Why not?
You should see what he had engraved on it. Finder, please return this girl to Walter Denton.
I think that's cute, Harriet. If a certain party gave me one of those bracelets, I think I might enjoy getting lost. Now, excuse me, dear, while I make this call.
Okay. Bye, Miss Brooks.
Hello?
Hello, Mrs. Davis. Connie.
Oh, Connie. Well, how did you like the gift I gave you?
Oh, it's lovely, Mrs. Davis. Simply lovely.
I knew you'd be enthusiastic over that black silk negligee.
Well, certainly, it's something Mr. Boynton and I can... Black silk negligee? Oh, no.
It was a chess set, Connie, just to throw you off the track.
And you did, right into the path of a screaming locomotive.
Was the negligee the wrong size, dear?
Oh, I'm not sure, but I think Mr. Boynton takes a 38.
Speak louder, Connie. It sounded almost as though you said Mr. Boynton.
I've got to hang up now, Mrs. Davis. I just gave somebody a gift, and I've got to get it back before he opens it.
Why? Do you think he won't like it, Connie?
Oh, not exactly, Mrs. Davis. It's something that all men like, but on somebody else.
Come in. Come in, Boynton. Come in. Sit right down, my boy.
Thank you, Mr. Conklin. I came in to sign that requisition for those test tubes. I know it needs both our signatures.
Yes. Here, use this fountain pen, Boynton. A Christmas gift from Miss Enright, a fabulously generous person.
Not that I expect gifts from my faculty, mind you. Why, last year there were 3 teachers who gave me nothing for Christmas, and one of them is still with us.
Yes, sir.
Merry Christmas, Boynton.
And a Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Is that all, Boynton?
No, sir, and a Happy New Year.
I had a feeling you'd say that. Mr. Boynton, if you'll pardon my curiosity, just what is that gaily wrapped parcel you're carrying under your arm?
Oh, it's nothing, sir. Just a little present I got.
Thank you so much.
But, sir...
So you were teasing your old principal, eh, Boynton?
No, sir. It's only...
Never mind what it is, Boynton. It's not what a gift is that counts, but the spirit in which it is given. What is it, Boynton?
It's a chess set, sir.
Splendid. Just what I need. I know just where I can exchange it forever. It's exactly what I want. Now, go right ahead, Boynton. Sign that requisition, and we'll put it in the works at once.
All right, and thank you, sir.
Forget it, Boynton. Just consider those test tubes as my Christmas present to you.
Oh, Mr. Boynton, I'm glad I finally found you. I missed you right after lunch.
Goodness, Miss Brooks, you're breathless.
Please, this is no time for flattery. Oh, you mean I'm winded? Yeah. Well, I've been looking for you after every period since noon. I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to return that gift I gave you. There's been a slight mistake, and I have to exchange it.
The gift you gave me? Well, you can't exchange it, Miss Brooks. I used it during my free period.
Wasn't it a little skimpy around the hips? You opened it already?
Well, I haven't exactly opened it, but, well, I like chess. It's my favorite game.
Believe me, Mr. Boynton, in this thing, you couldn't make a move. Look, I really must have it back. You see, I gave you the wrong present by mistake.
Oh, well, then I may as well tell you the truth. I gave it to Mr. Conklin as a Christmas present. I hadn't intended to, but before I knew it, he seemed to take possession of it.
You gave him the gift I gave you? Mr. Boynton, I'm shocked. How could you bring yourself to give away a gift someone else had given you? If you knew the time and thought and effort I put in to select a gift that would suit your personality... What am I saying?
Really, Miss Brooks, it all happened so quickly, I had no alternative, but...
Please, Mr. Boynton, no excuses. I still think you were quite negligent. Negligent. Well, I've got to get it back at once, so here goes.
Well, good luck, Miss Brooks.
Come in. Why, Miss Brooks, come in, my dear. Well, have you decided what little gift you would like from your principal this year?
Well, frankly, I'm undecided, sir, between a little diamond wristwatch and a little alligator handbag.
How about a little psychoanalysis? Remember, this is Osgood Conklin you're talking to, Miss Brooks, not Daddy Warbucks.
Well, fortunately, Mr. Conklin, I managed to obtain one of those exclusive personal discount cards from the McGinty Sales Company. A little boy was handing them out in the street. And if you gave me the cash, I think I could get a certain watch for well under $50.
$50? Miss Brooks, I am just as susceptible to the infectious generosity of the season as the next man. But I do not intend to allow that infection to kill off my entire life savings.
Well, Mr. Conklin, next to the watch and the handbag, the only thing I want is a chess set, so I don't...
A chess set. Here, Miss Brooks, exactly what I got for you. Take it, it's yours. Merry Christmas.
My, what a delightful surprise.
I'm glad you like it, Miss Brooks. You just can't imagine the time and the thought I put into the selection of your gift. Truly, my dear, it was quite a struggle to get it.
Well, I'm glad he didn't give it up without a fight. My, you certainly have a lovely collection of presents in here, Mr. Conklin.
There's still one teacher I haven't heard from yet, Mr. Perkins in the math department. Come in and bring it with you. Why, Mr. Stone.
Hello, Conklin, Miss Brooks. Season's greetings to you both.
And the same to you, sir.
Here, Conklin, I brought over this gift for you.
Thank you, Mr. Stone.
Oh, forget I'm the head of the board today, Conklin. Get into that old Christmas spirit. Enjoy yourself. Relax. Smile. Have you given out all of your gifts yet, Osgood?
Yep, gifts. Oh, yes, Miss Brooks just finished wrapping yours, Mr. Stone, here.
Oh, but, sir, that package is...
Yes, Miss Brooks, you were saying...
May you get many years of use out of your gift, Mrs. Stone. And for longer life, rinse it out every night and hang it up in the bathroom.
Oh? Is it a shirt, Conklin?
Oh, no, sir.
Handkerchief?
No.
Socks?
No, but I'll give you a hint. 2 people can use it at the same time.
If they're midgets.
2 can use it at the same time, eh? Oh, is it something that can be used outdoors on an athletic field?
Possibly, but it might be a little chilly for night games.
Miss Brooks. Mr. Stone, why don't you open it and see for yourself?
Oh, you don't have to ask me twice, Conklin. I'm just as curious as a little child at Christmas. Hey. Oh. Conklin. I don't understand.
Well, what could be nicer than a black silk negligee? It's the perfect gift for you, sir. And I know you'll get many years of pleasure in using it. What could be nicer than a black silk negligee?
Happy April Fool, Mr. Stone.
Mr. Stone, believe me,
Conklin! I have heard of asinine practical jokes before. But pulling a trick like this on Christmas is an absolute insult.
Mr. Stone, I can explain. It was a simple natural error. You see, when I got this from Mr. Boynton... Miss Brooks, why did Mr. Boynton give me a black silk negligee?
I can't understand either, sir. Pale blue is much more your color. I can't understand at all.
Conklin, I'm still waiting for an explanation.
Come in.
Mrs. Davis wanted to see Miss Brooks on an urgent matter, sir.
That's right, Osgood. Oh, hello, Mr. Stone.
Hello, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, Connie, there's the negligee I gave you. I see you've opened it.
What? Miss Brooks, you mean you gave me a gift that someone else had given you for Christmas?
Well, you see...
Boynton, do you mean you gave me a gift that someone else had given you?
Well, sir, Conklin, do you mean you gave me a gift that 3 other people had given you?
Well,
That nightgown has more mileage on it than a 1928 Ford.
Conklin, I don't quite understand what's going on around here, but if your idea of a joke is to hand me a cheap nightgown...
That is not a cheap nightgown. It cost $22.50.
$22.50... Say, it is rather pretty at that. Conklin, perhaps I've been a little hasty. I think Mrs. Stone will be delighted with your thoughtful gift.
Well, I'm afraid I did give you the wrong gift, Mr. Stone. I had really intended that for Mrs. Conklin.
But, Mr. Conklin, I was going to give it to my mother.
If you were, she'll have to come down and take it off my back. That gift was originally given to me by Mrs. Davis.
That's true, Connie, but I'm afraid I'll have to take it back, dear.
Take it back? But why, Mrs. Davis?
My sister Angela gave it to me as a gift, and she's coming over tonight to see it on me. So if you don't mind, I'll take it home. Well, see you all again soon.
Well, there goes Mother's negligee.
Whose negligee, Boynton?
I might ask you the same question, Conklin.
Really, Mr. Stone,
Gentlemen, please, we shouldn't argue. Let's try to remember it always as our negligee.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, has been a presentation of the United States Armed Forces Radio Service. holidays the past few years, our Miss Brooks has been putting her time to good use, writing articles for the Western Quarterly magazine. Last year, they paid her $50 for an authentic article called The Vanishing Indian. And this year, they've agreed to pay her $100 for one on the vanishing hobo.
And next year, if they make it $200, I'll do one on the vanishing school teacher. To make this year's article as authentic as possible, I decided to get my information from a genuine hobo. So my first problem was, where would I be most likely to find the biggest bum in town? I decided to try the railroad yard since my principal's office was closed for the holidays. And yesterday morning, my search was rewarded. I met a really loquacious tramp with whom I agreed to divide my fee for the article if he would supply the information I needed. As we walked back to my house, we made a very interesting couple. Me with my new Christmas hat and coat with patch pockets, and he with his broken-down derby and suit with patch pockets wherever you look. But my hobo still couldn't seem to get over his good fortune.
Then you're really shelling out half a C-note just to hear me spill? Boy, lady, it sure is lucky I stumbled onto you. Particularly since I just got in by lower berth from Chi.
You rode from Chicago by lower berth?
Yeah, all the way. Right under a Pullman car. I ride Pullmans all the time. You gotta know how to use your lump of lead to land a spot like that.
Your lump of lead?
Yeah, your head.
Well, knowing the students at Madison, I shouldn't have asked. Your vocabulary is a wee bit different from mine, Mr. You know, I still don't know your name.
It's the Earl of Peoria.
The Earl of Peoria? Well, what do you hear from the Princess Margaret Rose? I just couldn't resist that.
You should have. Nearly everybody pulls the same gag.
Well, here we are, Earl. This is where I live.
Hey, this is quite a trap you got here.
Oh, I don't know. In 6 years, I still haven't caught Mr. Just a moment while I get
Oh, there you are, Connie. I was wondering if you'd be back in time for breakfast.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Davis. This is the Earl of Peoria.
Hello, lady.
Oh, how do you do, your lordship?
Mrs. Davis, you needn't bother to curtsy.
All right, dear. But would it be all right if I asked the Earl a question? It's a little personal.
That's okay, lady. Go right ahead.
How's the Princess Margaret Rose?
The last time the Earl was in Buckingham Palace, he forgot to inquire. Mrs. Davis, you can see by the way the Earl is dressed that he's a gentleman of the road.
Yeah, a hobo.
My, what a perfect disguise. Well, don't worry. Your secret is safe with me, Your Majesty.
Your Majesty? I tell her he's a hobo, and immediately she ups the ante. Mrs. Davis,
Maybe the Earl is hungry, Connie. Breakfast is on the table, and I know there's plenty for all three of us. Why not go ahead in, Your Worship?
Well, thanks. I won't mind a bite at that.
You can cut the wood later. Go right in sometime, Dad. We'll be with you in a minute.
Thanks.
Mrs. Davis, the Earl is actually a genuine hobo.
Really? Well, dear, no matter what his profession is, it's nice that you're getting away from biologists for a change.
And I'm not seeing him to get away from Mr. Boynton. The Western Quarterly magazine is paying me $100 for an article called The Vanishing Hobo. And I'm simply seeing the Earl to get authentic information. Now, do you understand?
Of course, dear.
Good.
Where is he taking you on New Year's Eve?
He's not taking me anywhere. As of now, Mr. Boynton is still my New Year's Eve date.
Well, I thought you said he hasn't invited you yet. What if he doesn't ask you?
Well, then I'll have to resort to a clever little subterfuge which we women use only in extreme emergency.
What's that, dear?
I'll ask him. Anyway, I expect to see him in a little while. Walter's driving me over there to pick up his typewriter and borrow a clean shirt and tie for the Earl.
Oh, that reminds me, Connie. While you were out, Mr. Conklin called. He said to tell you to come over to his house as soon as Walter picks you up. He sounded as if it were a matter of life and death if you weren't there in half an hour.
I think I'll wait an hour and be sure. Everything's a matter of life and death with our principal when he wants me to do something for him. Doesn't he realize that these are the holidays and that we teachers have a right to some time off just as much as...
Oh, there's the back doorbell. That's probably Walter now. Come in, dear. The door's open.
Why is he coming in by the back door?
He probably wants to stop in the kitchen and drop off the bag of food I asked him to buy.
Good morning, ladies. Say, I just came through your dinette. You know, there's a man eating like crazy in there with both hands.
Well, go in and show him how you eat with both mouths. Go in and join him, Walter.
Say, who is he?
He's the Earl of Peoria, Walter.
The Earl of Peoria? Well, what does he hear from the Princess Margaret Rose?
That joke might easily become as popular as the bubonic plague. But to forestall any further speculation as to who he is, the Earl's a tramp who's helping me with an article I've been writing called The Vanishing Hobo. Now, is everything clear?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'm glad.
Where's he taking you on New Year's Eve?
I wonder if this place is wired for sound. Now, Walter, if you're ready, let's get going. I have to stop off at our principal's house before we visit Mr. Boynton.
Oh, I'm not going with you, Miss Brooks. Yeah, I have some errands to do for my mother, so I thought I'd let you borrow my car. Yeah, I have every confidence you are my equal as a driver.
Give a pedestrian, take a pedestrian. Well, in that case, I might as well take the Earl along. That is, if your car is suitable for him. How high is the body from the ground, Walter?
But, Connie, what difference does it make how high the car's body is?
Plenty. I want the Earl to be perfectly comfortable while he rides under it. In case you're wondering whose house this is, Earl, it's my principal's.
Hey, it's not bad. Yes, sir, this is a real ice palace, isn't it?
Yes, that does describe the thin stuff I skate on around here.
Oh, hi, Miss Brooks. Daddy's been expecting you. Come on in.
Thanks, Harriet.
Daddy's in the... Oh, hello.
Hello, miss.
Harriet, this is the Earl of Peoria.
Oh, how do you do, Your Highness?
Harriet, you don't have to curtsy.
Well, all right. Then I'll...
And you don't have to kiss his hand, either.
Go on. Let her enjoy herself.
Well, at least could I ask the Earl a question? Of course, it is a little personal.
If it's about the Princess Margaret Rose's health, she's in bed with the gout.
Oh, Miss Brooks, how did you know what I was going to ask?
I read tea leaves. The Earl of Peoria is a hobo, Harriet.
Who is at the door, Harriet? Oh, it's you, Miss Brooks. What's that?
How are you?
Mr. Conklin, this is the Earl of Peoria, and you needn't bother to curtsy, sir.
The Earl of Peoria. Well, what do you hear from the Prince of Wales? The Prince of Wales? Yeah? Oh, I really do come up with them, eh, Miss Brooks?
You should have stayed down with that one. Did you want to see me about something, sir?
Indeed I did. Come into my den, please.
Daddy, if you don't need me around here anymore, I'm going to meet Cynthia Craven.
Lucky Cynthia. You may go, Harriet. Follow me, Miss Brooks.
You don't mind waiting here alone a few minutes, Earl?
Oh, not at all. It's a lot safer.
Now, sit down, Miss Brooks. Now, tell me, just what is that hobo doing, tagging along with you?
Well, I'm writing an article for the Western Quarterly magazine entitled The Vanishing Hobo, and I needed authentic information, so I found the Earl in the railroad yard. Does that explain everything, sir?
I believe it does.
I'm glad. What did you want to see me about, Mr. Conklin?
Miss Brooks, when I called this morning, I had a little errand I wanted you to perform for me. But I know how insignificant that will appear when I tell you about the reports Mr. Stone asked me to work on.
But, sir, didn't you explain to him that these are your holidays and there's time enough when you get back to school?
I did indeed, Miss Brooks. I was so persuasive, in fact, that Mr. Stone finally agreed to let me split my work half and half.
Half during the holidays and half after?
No, half for you and half for Miss Enright.
But, sir, these are my holidays, too.
Yes, they weren't they? Miss Brooks, those reports will only take you a few afternoons this coming week.
Oh, well, I don't suppose there's any use in protesting.
And my, you are maturing, aren't you? Now, the other thing is quite simple. Since you have Denton's car anyway, I didn't think you'd mind dropping off 3 or 4 suits of mine at the cleaners. My wife has taken our car up to her mother's for a few days.
Oh, that's all right, sir.
Fine. They're on one of the chairs in the hall. I'll show you. Yeah, they're right over there on this. Miss Brooks, they're gone. My suits are missing.
Oh, but that's impossible, sir. They couldn't be missing. Not with the Earl standing right in here guarding. Standing right...
Well...
Maybe he's standing outside guarding them.
The dirty crook stole my suit.
Oh, Mr. Conklin, what a horrible thing to say. Harriet probably told the Earl you wanted me to take your suits to the cleaners, and he probably carried them to the car for me. He's undoubtedly waiting in the car this very minute. Now, I'll just open the front door and show you how mistaken you are.
Well?
Why, the dirty crook stole Walter's car. Well, while I was writing my article on the vanishing hobo, the hobo vanished with Mr. Conklin's suit, Walter's car, and maybe even my job. I persuaded Mr. Conklin not to call the police just yet, to show a little faith in human nature. The sort of faith I showed later that morning when I dropped into Mr. Boynton's apartment to borrow his typewriter and wait for him to ask me out on New Year's Eve. I waited. And I waited. And I waited. Finally, with the amazing insight he usually displays, Mr. Boynton asked me the question I had been expecting.
What are you waiting for, Miss Brooks?
The baseball teams to go south for spring training. Mr. Boynton, do you realize there's only 5 more days till New Year's Eve?
Oh, that's right. 5 days.
There's only 120 hours, 7,200 minutes. Sounds longer that way. I feel the only way to really celebrate is in some gay nightclub. Don't you agree, Mr. Boynton?
Not for me. They're too expensive.
Oh, they'll rob you blind. Personally, I prefer an intimate little house party. A friend of mine is giving...
House party? With all those crazy records? The wild dancing and the indiscriminate kissing at midnight?
I avoid those parties like the plague. That's why I thought I might go walking with some dear friend on New Year's Eve. You know, mixed with the gay, mad holiday crowds, Mr. Boynton. Walk and mix? Mix and walk?
I did that last year. Came down with an awful cold.
Like I say, Mr. Boynton, there's only one place to spend New Year's Eve, and I wish you'd tell me where. Mr. Boynton, what are we going to do New Year's Eve?
We? Well, I'm staying home. What are you doing New Year's Eve?
Not a thing, and thanks for the invitation. I'll be over at 9 sharp. Oh, before I forget, I came here to borrow your typewriter.
My typewriter? But your friend the Earl stopped by and borrowed it for you an hour ago. I told him a few keys were stuck, but he took it anyway.
The Earl was here and took your typewriter with him?
Yes, my portable.
With the Earl, everything is portable. Don't worry, Mr. Boynton. I'm sure you'll get it back.
Get it back? You mean he stole my typewriter?
Borrowed is a better word, Mr. Boynton.
But suppose he never brings it back.
Then stole is a better word.
Well, I'm not just going to sit around, Miss Brooks. I'm calling the police at once.
Oh, no, please, Mr. Boynton. I'm sure it isn't necessary. Maybe they're calling you.
Hello? Oh, yes, she's here. Miss Brooks, it's for you.
Oh, it must be the Earl. Hello? Look, you bring everything back, and I promise you won't serve 1 day in jail. Not 1 day. Believe me. You do believe me, don't you?
Yes, Connie, I believe you.
Is that you, Mrs. Davis?
Yes, dear, it's me.
You didn't call for any special reason, did you?
Well, yes. My radio is missing.
Oh, no. Are you sure?
Of course I'm sure, dear. I have no television set, so it must be the radio. At first, I thought you took it out to have that knob fixed.
No, Mrs. Davis, I didn't take it.
Well, don't worry, dear. That nice gentleman friend of yours must have stolen it then.
Mrs. Davis, I'm surprised at you. I thought you would show a little more faith in human nature.
Well, I'm sorry, dear. Perhaps I spoke too quickly. But Connie.
Yes?
Why don't you call Fisher's pawn shop just to make sure?
No, if the Earl had been there, the pawn shop would be missing by now. Goodbye, Mrs. Davis.
So he stole Mrs. Davis' radio, too. And you still think he'll be back, Miss Brooks?
Call it a sixth sense, Mr. Boynton. Call it a woman's intuition. Call it anything, but don't call the police. Please?
Oh, all right, Miss Brooks. In order not to embarrass you, I won't. But I don't share your confidence. I'm going hunting for that crook, and when I get my hands on him, there'll be fireworks.
Oh, I'm sure you'll catch him before the 4th of July. He'll be back soon. You'll see. Now, if you'll excuse me, Mr. Boynton, I've got to break some sad news to Walter.
What sad news?
That the car he loaned me this morning is now getting its kicks on Route 66. A little more ice cream, Walter? It's no trouble to go out to the kitchen and bring you another plate.
No, thanks. These 3 quarts are plenty. I've already been here an hour more than I expected.
I might as well tell you the truth. Your car is gone.
Gone?
Yes, the Earl disappeared today with your car, Mr. Boynton's typewriter, Mr. Conklin's clothes, and Mrs. Davis's radio.
Wow! That guy collects more stuff in a day than the Salvation Army does in a year. But why would a friend of yours do a thing like that, Miss Brooks?
A good question, Walter, and I'm sorry you asked it. But let's not lose our heads. I have an idea how and where we might find our vagabond friends.
How, Miss Brooks? Oh, I'm just itching to get my hands on that jalopy jipper.
Well, operating on the theory that it takes a crook to catch a crook, or in this case a hobo to catch a hobo, here's how I think we can find the Earl. All right, Walter, let's camp here.
All right, Miss Brooks. Gosh, you look funny in my father's old clothes.
How do I look, Walter?
You like my father.
Well, it's my own fault for asking. I was hoping I'd look like an authentic hobo.
Not you, Miss Brooks. But with that broken-down derby, you look a lot like the Earl. Excepting, of course, you haven't a 3 days' growth of beard.
I just couldn't wait for 3 days. Well, let's hope my idea works.
Hey, wait a minute. I think it's working already. Look over there.
Where?
That man, huddled over a fire. It's him, Miss Brooks. He's wearing the same broken-down derby, torn coat, handkerchief round his neck.
Yes, I think you're right, Walter. Now we'll sneak up behind him and take him by surprise. Ready?
Am I? Oh, for his sake, I hope his Blue Cross is paid up. Let's go.
All right. Tackle him, Walter.
Yep. Hold on. We got him, Miss Brooks.
All right, Earl, do you give up?
Miss Brooks, why are you sitting on my chest?
Wait, Mr. Boynton, Miss Brooks. You're sitting on Mr. Boynton's chest.
Well, so I am.
Why are you dressed like a tramp, Mr. Boynton?
Yes, I'm already convinced you can't afford much for New Year's Eve.
Well, I might ask you and Walter the same question, Miss Brooks. Why are you dressed up like hobos?
I can't afford much for New Year's Eve either. That is, we figured it takes a hobo to catch a hobo.
Well, that's exactly the way I had it figured out. Miss Brooks, would you do me a big favor?
Certainly, Mr. Boynton. What is it?
Will you please get off my chest?
Oh, I am still there, aren't I? Well, it seems we were both operating on the same theory to catch the Earl, so...
Hey, Miss Brooks, look. Over there, it's him. It's just who we're looking for.
Where's him? I mean, who's who? Where?
Just behind that tree by the open fire. Yeah, it's him.
Yes, it does look like him. The broken derby, the torn coat, the handkerchief. All right, the three of us will sneak up and grab him. Ready, Mr. Boynton?
Not quite.
Oh, that's right. I'm still on your chest. There. How's that?
All right, now. We'll sneak up behind him. And when I give the signal, we grab him.
Oui, mon capitaine.
Okay? Grab him!
All right, Earl, he's got you.
Miss Brooks, will you kindly remove those pointed knees from my chest?
Conklin, is that you?
No, Miss Brooks. It's Liberace.
But gosh, Mr. Conklin, what are you doing in a railroad yard dressed up like a tramp?
If you must know, Denton, I am only a school principal by day. By night, I have a full-time job with the railroad, toasting weenies over open fire. Now, what is the meaning of this dastardly attack by the three of you on my person?
Mr. Conklin, we had no idea it was you. The way you were dressed, we thought you were the Earl. Just why did you come here, sir?
Because I dearly loved those clothes Miss Brooks' decrepit raffles so callously took from me. And acting on the theory it takes a crook to catch a crook?
Hey, we all had the same idea, Mr. Conklin.
Well, goody gumdrop. Now, see here, Miss Brooks.
Wait a minute, sir. Now, I think I really see him.
The Earl? Where, Mr. Boynton?
Over there, by the tracks, bent over that little fire. Oh, this time it must be the Earl.
And why must it be the Earl this time, Boynton?
Because we've already run out of bums. Certainly looks like him, sir.
Well, yes, it does. Same broken derby, torn coat. All right, men, follow me. When I give the signal, attack.
Oui, mon général.
Over the top, men! Go for broke! Banzai!
All right, we've got it now, Earl. Do you give up?
Yes, Connie, I give up. And please tell your hobo friends not to sit on me. It aggravates my arthritis.
They're not hobos, Mrs. Davis. That's Mr. Boynton, Mr. Conklin, and Walter Denton.
I can't help who they are. They still aggravate my arthritis.
We're awfully sorry, Mrs. Davis. We didn't know.
Why are you dressed up like a tramp?
Well, I do miss my little radio, dear. And I was hoping I'd run into your gentleman friend down here.
Well, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not wasting any more time. I'm going to the police at once.
I don't think that will be necessary, Osgood. There's a plainclothes detective coming toward us this minute.
What so there is?
In these clothes, we'll be pinched.
Well, there's nothing we can do, Miss Brooks. He sees us.
Officer, you must believe us. We are not actually tramps. We are only people...
Steady up your thing. I'll handle this. Now, listen, Copper. You can't get a thing on us. Not a thing.
Copper, lady, don't you recognize me? I'm the Earl of Peoria.
The Earl of Peoria.
Soon to be known as the Duke of Alcatraz. Young man, if that's my suit you're wearing, you may consider it the suit you are about to be laid out in.
Hey, let go of me, Mac. I paid for this suit with my own money.
Certainly. He's probably collecting unemployment insurance.
I demand to know this instant, where are my clothes?
And my car.
And my typewriter.
And my radio.
I pass. Earl, you'd better tell these people where their things are. They want to call the police.
Miss Brooks, is that what you think of me, too? That I stole these things?
No, I don't, Earl. I had a hunch you'd be back.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. You treated me so nice today, I figured I'd do something for your pals. So I took your principal's clothes to a real good tailor, and I fixed up the typewriter, radio, and car. I paid for everything myself and brought them all back before I came down here.
A very interesting explanation. And exactly where did you get the money for all those repairs? Plus the new suit you're wearing.
The money I got was some advance dough and some work I'm doing.
Advance money? For what?
Well, you see, Miss Brooks, while you were writing an article about hobos for your magazine, I was writing an article about teachers for the Hobo News.
An article about teachers for the Hobo News.
And if he can get a photographer down here in a hurry, they'll believe every word of it.
And now, here is Eve Arden. Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, transcribed, was produced and directed by Larry Burns, written by Arthur Ellsberg and Lou Dorman, with the music of Wilbur Hatch. Mr. Conklin was played by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, Bob Rockwell, Gloria McMillan, and Peter Lee.
Now it's Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Quite frequently in the past, when her principal engaged in a project, he expected the members of his faculty to follow suit. So it was no surprise to our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High, when 2 weeks ago Mr. Conklin took up an old hobby of his and then ordered his teachers to pursue a hobby of their own. At first, she was even quite happy when she was ordered to pursue a hobby.
In fact, right up until Mr. Conklin informed me that Mr. Boynton wasn't quite what he had in mind. But it was Mr. Conklin's hobby, rather than mine, that caused most of the difficulty this past week. His avocation was making lifelike figures out of wax, which he then presented to his teachers and insisted that we display them prominently in our homes. Actually, his wax figures of animals were exceptionally good, and the leopard he gave me last Wednesday was extremely lifelike. Thursday morning, when my landlady saw it for the first time, her reaction was immediate.
Connie!
Oh! Mrs. Davis! Mrs. Davis, come out of the closet, dear. He's not alive.
Not alive. You're sure he isn't, Connie?
Of course I'm sure.
Well, all right, then.
This leopard is just another of Mr. Conklin's wax figures. Although I will admit they're quite realistic.
They certainly are.
I don't know what we can do about Mr. Conklin's hobby, but in a way it has had its good effects.
How, dear?
Well, it's forced many of the teachers to take up hobbies when they'd never had one until now. For instance, you've never seen me doing any knitting before. Look what I've accomplished in the last few weeks.
Yes, I was noticing those things on the sideboard before you came in this morning.
Did you see the things I knitted for Mr. Boynton?
Oh, I know he'll be delighted with that.
It's a bathing suit.
Of course, dear. I should have known it was a bathing suit as soon as I saw the turtleneck.
Well, anyway, I know Mr. Boynton will be pleased with it when I give it to him at dinner. Well, as soon as I get to school, I'll ask him if Oh, that's probably Walter to pick me up. Come on in, Walter. The door's open.
I better see what I've got left in the kitchen for him. And you know how that boy eats. I'll be back in a minute.
Hello, Walter. Why, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, good morning, Miss Brooks. Yay!
Mr. Boynton. Mr. Boynton, come out of the closet this minute. I don't look that bad in the morning. Oh, it's the leopard. He's not alive, Mr. Boynton.
He's not? You're sure? Oh, no, I get it now. It's another of Mr. Conklin's wax figures. Gosh, they certainly are realistic. I'll bet you'll never guess what he gave me for my place, Miss Brooks. A wolf.
Well, are you learning anything? Why did you come by this morning, Mr. Boynton?
Well, Walter called me a little while ago and said something went wrong with his car, so I decided I'd pick you up instead.
Oh, I'm glad you did. And since you're here, I might as well give you the present I knitted for you. I was originally going to give it to you tonight at dinner. Here you are, Mr. Boynton. Shows what you can create when you take up a new hobby, doesn't it?
You knitted this for me?
Care to jump back into the closet?
Oh, no, it's beautiful. Beautiful. It'll make a wonderful cover for my rabbit cage.
It's a bathing suit.
A bathing suit? With a turtleneck?
Well, if you can't use it, just hand it to the nearest turtle.
I'll use it. And since you've given me your gift already, I might as well give you the things I made for you. I suppose you've been wondering what's in the shoebox I've been carrying.
No, I just figured it was your lunch.
It's the latest product of my wood carving hobby. Go ahead and open it.
Oh. Why, Mr. Boynton, they're lovely. They're two of the most beautifully carved ashtrays I've ever seen.
But they're shoes, Miss Brooks. Wooden shoes.
Wooden shoes? Oh. I guess what fooled me was you forgot the wooden laces.
Well, they just slip on. Women in Holland wear them all the time. Go ahead, see how they fit.
All right. First, I have to get my own shoes off. There. Oh, say, this wooden shoe slips on nice and easy.
Good. Is it the right size?
Oh, yes. Both feet fit into it perfectly.
Well, they may seem a little loose on your feet at first, but you'll find they're very comfortable around the house. Just try walking in them.
All righty. Well, let's go, Mr. Boynton. I've got to see Mr. Conklin the first thing this morning.
Well, you're not going to wear those shoes to school, are you, Miss Brooks?
You said the women in Holland wear them all the time, didn't you?
Oh, yes, but what's that got to do with you?
Well, at least today I'm dressed for the part when I get in Dutch with Mr. Conklin.
Daddy, I'm not just flattering you. This wax figure you've made of yourself is amazingly lifelike. Why, if I didn't know you were sitting behind that desk, I'd swear you were the wax figure standing beside it. You do believe me, don't you?
I ought to, since the wax figure standing beside it happens to be me.
What? Oh, this is wonderful. This figure behind the desk could fool anybody. Daddy, may I say you're a genius?
Over and over again. I am rather facile with wax, aren't I?
Oh, I should say you are.
Oh, yes. My only regret is that there isn't enough room for me to do my modeling at home. It isn't easy to flaunt school rules night after night working in the gymnasium. But I suppose for a true artist, rules are sometimes made to be broken.
Oh, I'm so glad you feel that way about rules, Daddy. Then could I skip homework and go out with Walter tonight?
And just when did you join the club, Miss Picasso? You most certainly cannot. Even if you had no homework, you know perfectly well Denton has a job assisting me evenings. Now, Harriet, I know you have a class, so if you don't mind, kindly get...
Goodness, what's that?
It sounds like the Martians have finally landed. Who is it?
It's Miss Brooks, sir.
Well, I wasn't far wrong. Just a moment, please. Now, if you'll excuse me, Harriet, I'm about to make a little experiment to find out just how lifelike that wax figure behind my desk really is.
When, Daddy?
When I am hidden behind that door and you are out of this office. Through my inner office, please. What?
Oh, all right.
Now to get behind my office door before Miss Brooks comes in. Here we are. Come in, Miss Brooks.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Conklin. Sir, I have a big favor to ask you, an enormous favor. Now, please don't say anything until you've heard me out. It's about tonight. I know I'm supposed to go over some reports with you at your house, but when I agreed to do it, I forgot that tonight Mr. Boynton and I were celebrating his 6th anniversary at Madison. So would it be all right if I went to your house tomorrow night? Would it? Would it? Mr. Conklin, I just asked you not to say anything until you'd heard me out. Not to never speak again. Sir, I've never seen you this quiet before. Is your head bothering you? It's coming off. If there's anything I can do to help, it's coming off.
Don't worry. We can always weld it back on.
Conklin, what are you doing in back of me when you're in front of me? Oh, I see it now. One of you is made of wax. Oh, you certainly gave me an awful start, sir.
Well, I'm sorry if I upset you, Miss Brooks, but the figure is rather lifelike, isn't it?
Well, truly, sir, it's practically impossible to tell the difference between you and the dummy. That is, there's a remarkable resemblance. Now, about the favor I was going to ask of you.
I've already heard you ask it, Miss Brooks, and since I intend working on my wax figures here at school tonight, you may have the evening off.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Conklin, thank you. Honestly, you've made me so happy, sir, I could kiss you.
If you must, try the wax, Mr. Conklin. But in return for this favor of mine, I have a small favor to ask of you. Will you supervise this office during your lunch hour, since I have to go downtown to purchase more wax for my figure?
Oh, yes, sir, gladly.
Good, good.
Well, if you don't need me anymore, I'll be on my way to class.
One moment, please, Moll Flanders. Just where did you get those wooden shoes?
Mr. Boynton made them for me, sir. Wood carving is his hobby.
Would you come a little closer, Miss Brooks?
Yes, sir.
My, it's lucky this building is earthquake-proof. Oh, the wood carving on these shoes is excellent, simply excellent. I've been searching for someone to assist me in my work, and Boynton might be just the man. Yes, I think he may do.
Mr. Boynton, your assistant?
Yes, he'll start working with me tonight on my historical figures.
Oh, but, sir, I told you we're celebrating an anniversary tonight. He's supposed to have dinner with me.
Miss Brooks, I've made up my mind. Tonight, Mr. Boynton starts with Marie Antoinette.
Marie Antoinette? Mr. Conklin, I think I may have an idea that will solve both our problems.
What's that, Miss Brooks?
You take Marie Antoinette, and we'll make it a double date. Well, at noon that day, while the real Mr. Conklin was downtown, I was sitting in front of our principal's desk, keeping an eye on his office, while the wax figure of Mr. Conklin sat in the chair opposite, keeping his eye on me. Suddenly, the door opened.
Hi, Miss Brooks. Hello, Mr. Conklin.
Oh, hello, Walter.
Mr. Conklin, I have a big favor to ask you, but please don't say anything until you've heard what it is, okay?
Don't worry, he won't.
Well, sir, it's about tonight. I've been planning a big date with a certain member of your family for a week now, so could I please be excused tonight? After all, sir, I've stood guard outside the gym for 5 straight nights while you worked inside, so could I please have tonight off? Could I? Could I? Mr. Conklin, I just asked you not to speak until I finish, not to never speak again.
Mr. Conklin, do you mean to say you forced this poor boy to stand out in the cold for 5 nights? Why, I've never heard of anything so heartless, so cruel and inhuman. Now stop sitting there like a wax dummy and answer me.
You holy cow! Please, Mr. Conklin, please, sir, you must forgive her. Oh, she's just a poor, hungry, overworked teacher who's finally snapped her cap. She'll apologize, Mr. Conklin. I know she will. Only think of the many long, faithful years of service behind her and the pitifully few short years ahead of her. Oh, spare her, I beg of you. We kids need her, sir. She's like a mother to us.
You'd do even better with grandmother. Walter, you can relax. You're only talking to a wax dummy.
A wax dummy? That's not the real Mr. Conklin?
Of course not.
You're sure?
Certainly.
Now get this marble head. I'm taking all I'm going to take from you. I won't throw nothing under. See? From now on, Harriet goes out with me every night of the week. And if you give me any more lip as to what time I'm going to bring her home, I'll bounce one off your pointed marble head. Boy, I had no idea Christmas would come again so soon.
It's a little like Christmas again, isn't it? Oh, I'm afraid that rings in the new year. Walter, please don't fool with that wax figure. It's fragile. Hello, Wax Museum. Madison High School. Miss Brooks speaking.
Oh, hello, Miss Brooks. This is Mr. Stone. Could I speak to Mr. Conklin, please?
He isn't here right now, sir.
Well, tell Mr. Conklin I passed by the school last night and I saw a light burning in the gymnasium. Now, Mr. Conklin knows how strict we are about using school facilities after hours. You just tell Mr. Conklin I'm coming over tonight to find out for myself who is using the gymnasium after school hours.
I'll give Mr. Conklin your message as soon as I see him, Mr. Stone.
Very well. Goodbye.
Goodbye, sir.
You're going to give Mr. Conklin what message, Miss Brooks?
That Mr. Stone's coming over tonight to investigate the light in the gymnasium.
But, Miss Brooks, why do that? If Mr. Stone discovers Mr. Conklin here tonight, he'll make him quit his hobby, thus releasing Mr. Boynton and me for active duty on other battlefields.
I'm getting to feel more like no man's land every day. Walter, I told Mr. Stone I'd give Mr. Conklin the message when I saw him, and that's exactly what I intend to do.
You do?
Yes, but I didn't say which, Mr. Conklin. Okay, Waxy, open up your ears.
It's almost 9 o'clock, Mr. Conklin. I have a date tonight. Perhaps we should come back to these figures tomorrow night.
No. I can't stop, Boynton. I must work. I guess I've got wax in my blood. Where did I get this heaven-sent talent? Did Julius Caesar ever look more dominating? And look at my Napoleon, Boynton. Did you ever see such a Napoleon? Whenever I look at it, I want to follow the man into battle.
Well, it's rather good, sir.
Thank you. And what do you think of this wax figure of Miss Brooks? Now, tell the truth, Boynton. I respect honest criticism.
Well, personally, I don't think the arms are quite right, because...
Boynton, when I want your opinion, I'll ask for it. And what, pray, Mr. Boynton, do you find wrong with Miss Brooks' arms?
Well, sir, I speak as one who's spent countless evenings in Miss Brooks' company.
Boynton, I am in no mood to hear your true confession. Exactly how would you have treated the arm?
Well, a little fuller.
Fiddle-faddle.
Oh, Mr. Conklin, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. All I really meant was...
Quiet. I think I hear footsteps.
Mr. Conklin, there's a couple of people coming, and I think one of them's Mr. Stone.
Mr. Stone? Good heavens, we've been ambushed.
What are we going to do, sir? There's no way out. They're coming toward us through the only open door.
Boyden, stop making this sound like the 9th episode of The Perils of Pauline. Now, we must be calm. That's it, calm. Calm, and think. I've got it. You hide in the workshop.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but what about us, sir?
There's no alternative, Boynton. Freeze!
Freeze?
Yes. If we remain absolutely motionless beside these wax figures, Mr. Stone could never tell us apart. Now, put out the light, Boynton. Sit over there between Marie Antoinette and Josephine.
Between Marie Antoinette and Josephine.
Oh, Boynton, relax. If Marie Antoinette makes a move toward you, I personally will see that she's guillotined again.
As he approached the gymnasium from the outside, Mr. Stone was surprised at something he saw.
Miss Brooks, didn't the light just go out in the gymnasium?
Oh, I'm not sure, Mr. Stone.
I'm glad I bumped into you. We can investigate this mystery together. I'll switch on the light.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, where did they go?
Where did who go, Miss Brooks?
Whoever was here, I mean.
My, these must be the wax figures Mr. Conklin's been working on. They're amazingly lifelike, aren't they?
Well, the Napoleon and the Caesar are, but that new one of Mr. Conklin wouldn't fool anyone. No living man ever looked like that.
That would be like Osgood placing his figure between Napoleon and Caesar.
He does seem to give them an inferiority complex, doesn't he?
And that one sitting over there between Marie Antoinette and Josephine, I believe, is Mr. Boynton, huh? Very good.
Good. He's gorgeous. It is good, isn't it, sir?
But this figure of Conklin needs the most work. For one thing, the eyes are wrong. They're too close together.
That's true, sir, and they lack that certain weasel-like quality. Oh, yes, they're not right, sir.
And somehow there's something wrong with those jaws.
Oh, the jaws are all wrong. Mr. Conklin has the heavy, beefy jowls of a baby rhinoceros.
Miss Brooks, where does Mr. Conklin keep his art supplies?
Oh, in that little workshop over there. You see it, sir? Why do you ask?
Frankly, I think I can improve this Conklin figure myself. Just by adding a little paint here, a dash of hot wax there, and moving that left eye over about 2 inches. What was that, Miss Brooks?
What was what?
Well, I thought Oh, never mind. I'll be right back with the materials.
Maybe I could move that eye over while...
No one is moving my left eye over 2 inches.
It's you.
Yes, Miss Brooks, it is indeed I. So my eyes lack that certain weasel-like quality.
Oh, no, sir. They're very weasel-like.
I have the heavy, beefy jowls of a baby rhinoceros, do I?
Oh, that was all in fun, sir.
No living man could look like I do.
Oh, it should have been no living woman could hold the job I'm losing.
Miss Brooks.
Mr. Boynton.
Well, I'm alive, too, Miss Brooks.
Want to bet?
Miss Brooks, this is no time for meaningless talk. I want you to get Mr. Stone out of here as soon as possible.
But, sir, Mr. Stone insists on doing you over.
Get rid of him, Miss Brooks, or come tomorrow morning a certain teacher may find herself pounding a beat in some kindergarten.
Well, all right, sir. I'll try.
See that you do, because... Here he comes.
Hey, it's amazing, Miss Brooks. Mr. Conklin's got wax figures all over the place. There's even one of Walter Denton in the workshop. Well, now to get to work on Osgood.
Mr. Stone, don't you think it's rather late?
Oh, nonsense, Miss Brooks. I haven't had so much fun in ages. Now, first, a touch of red paint on Mr. Conklin's cheeks. There. Notice how it brings out the eyes, Miss Brooks?
Yes, they do look like they're about to pop, don't they? Mr. Stone, I don't think we should...
Now we build up that chin with a little hot wax, so... And now the coup de grace.
Mr. Stone, what are you going to do with that saw?
Well, frankly, that left ear of Conklin's has disturbed me from the moment I first set eyes on it. It's got to go. That's it. Now, 1, 2... Oh, no! I was wondering when you'd decide to give up, Conklin.
You knew it was me all the time, sir.
From the moment I took that first look at you and you crossed your eyes.
Now, if your left eye had been moved over 2 inches, that was a dead giveaway, wasn't it?
I knew Boynton was alive from the moment I mentioned that he was sitting between Marie Antoinette and Josephine, and he began to blush.
He'd blush if he was sitting between 2 female frogs.
I don't mind telling you I consider this infringement of school rules a disgrace.
But, sir, if you let me explain...
No explanation is acceptable when a principal violates school rules to the extent of using its facilities after hours without the express consent of the board. However, I shall overlook the affair this time.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
But hereafter, I shall expect you to pursue your hobby at home.
Or find a different hobby.
Yes, or find a different hobby.
Something without Mr. Boynton.
Yes, something without Miss Brooks. Will you permit me the luxury of expressing my own thoughts in my own native language?
I'm sorry, sir. Well, Mr. Boynton, if we hurry, we can still catch a movie.
Oh, just a moment, please. Conklin, who made that chair Boynton is sitting on?
That one?
Yes.
Why, Boynton made it himself, Mr. Stone. His hobby is woodcraft.
Oh, it's excellent, beautiful work. You know, Boynton, I took up woodwork a few weeks ago myself, and I find it fascinating.
Oh, it is, sir.
I wonder if you can drop over sometime and give me a few pointers.
Well, anytime you say, Mr. Stone. I'd be very happy to.
How about tonight?
Oh, no, tonight's impossible, Mr. Stone. Mr. Boynton has already promised to help me out with my hobby. You see, I'm a knitter.
Well, how could Mr. Boynton help you out with that hobby?
Well, my cat's away, and someone's got to get all tangled up in the wool. Come on, Mr. Boynton.
And now here's the star of our show, Eve Arden.
Mr. Conklin's wax dummies of Marie Antoinette and Josephine were really lifelike, but he just didn't do right by their complexion.
Starring Eve Arden, transcribed, is produced and directed by Larry Burns, written by Arthur Alsberg and Lou Derman, with the music of Lud Gluskin. Mr. Conklin was played by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, Bob Rockwell, Gloria McMillan, and Joseph Kearns.
Well, frankly, there is little something. In my momentary exuberance this morning, I called my wife and said some things that may have annoyed her a teensy-weensy bit.
A teensy-weensy bit.
She said she'd never speak to me again. Miss Brooks, I know you have some influence with her. I'm sure you could help me win her back.
Oh, I don't know, Mr. Conklin. You know what they say about a woman scorned. Only a beaver stole can unscorn her.
Beaver stole?
There's a beauty on special for only $200. You do want her back in the next few weeks, don't you?
The next few weeks? I want her back at once. Not only do I love her, but Mr. Stone will cancel my lecture to her if she isn't.
Oh, I think I'm beginning to understand the urgency.
I did let the cat out of the bag, didn't I, Miss Brooks?
You let the cat out and the beaver in. See you at my house at 7, sir. Well, by 7 o'clock that night at my house, we were about ready to receive Mr. Conklin. Now, do we have our signal straight, Mrs. Conklin?
Well, I think so, Miss Brooks, but are you sure Osgood will come?
Of course he will, Martha. And don't worry, you'll get that beaver yet.
Mrs. Conklin, would Mr. Boynton be here now if I weren't sure of your husband's attitude? Believe me, it was difficult to convince him that Mrs. Davis had recovered after I told him she had the flu earlier today.
Oh, that explains it. I was wondering why he came in wearing a gauze mask before he...
Now, do you feel a little more confident, Mrs. Conklin?
Well, I guess so. Oh, my, I wonder if Phyllis Stone is having the same trouble with Mr. Stone.
Phyllis Stone?
Yes, Margaret. I told her about my marriage hopes, and she's trying the same trick to get a fur stole from Mr. Stone.
What? If this thing keeps spreading, we're all liable to wind up on Dragnet next week.
Now, Oh, goodness. That must be Osgood now.
Remember what I told you. Play hard to get. Mrs. Davis, would you mind going into the kitchen and sending in Mr. Boynton? I want him to be a witness to Love's Old Sweet Song.
All right, dear. And in the meantime, I'll finish preparing dinner.
Now, we'll be right back, Mrs. Conklin.
Good evening, Miss Brooks.
Why, Mr. Beaver. Mr. Conklin. Come in, sir.
Now then, where is she, Miss Brooks? Where is my lovely, blushing child bride? Never mind. I know where she is.
Hello, Osgood.
Poopsie girl. Angel eyes. I'm back. Your Osgood is back. But what is this doctor doing with you?
Oh, you can take off the gauze mask now, Mr. Boynton. The flu bug is in the kitchen.
Oh, yes, of course.
Did you want to say something to me, Osgood?
Indeed, I do, Lotus Blossom. I didn't mean a thing I said on the phone this morning. Not a thing. I want to remarry you more than anything else in the world. Look, a peach face. Your Osgood wants you back more than he can tell you. He needs you back. Say the word, and we'll be remarried tonight.
Say the word?
The common household word is beaver. Say it, and you win the first soul plus a year's supply of household.
Well, it's true, Osgood. You know how I've wanted a fur piece all these years.
Well, then you shall have it. You shall have anything you want. Only please say you will remarry me at once.
Are you taking notes, Mr. Boynton? No sacrifice is too great when two people are really in love, is it?
Apparently not, Miss Brooks.
Oh, well, who can that be?
Don't get your hopes up. They couldn't get the beaver over that quickly. I'd better see who it is. Mr. Stone.
Miss Brooks, is Mr. Conklin here? His daughter said I'd find him here. I must see him at once.
Yes, sir. Come in. He's right in the living room.
Well, Mr. Stone, what is it, sir? Something wrong at school?
Oh, nothing like that, Osgood. I'm not married. I just found out about it. And with you living so close, I thought I'd tell you first. The justice of the peace who married us 25 years ago had no legal right to perform the ceremony. I'm free! After all these years, magnificently, wonderfully free.
And you're delighted about it?
Well, wouldn't you be if the same thing happened to you?
Mr. Boynton, put back your gauze mask. The place has gotten contagious again.
Wouldn't I be if the same thing happened to me?
You're not going to let this interfere with the beaver stole, are you, Osgood?
Mr. Conklin, Miss Flyshacker.
Then your wife isn't getting the beaver stole?
My dear Miss Brooks, somewhere in the snowy wastes of Greenland, a poor unfortunate beaver will be killed. But as far as my ex-wife is concerned, he will have given his life in vain.
Your ex-wife?
Yes, Mr. Stone, by a remarkably odd coincidence, my marriage is also invalid, and for precisely the same reason as yours.
You mean I get my bag?
Thanks, dear. Now I'll tell you what I got for you. It's something I felt was very personal.
Something personal? What is it?
A chess set.
A chess set?
Yes. I know how Mr. Boynton loves the game, and it'll give you two something to do together on those long winter evenings. That is, if you know how the game goes.
Certainly, right out the window. It was very thoughtful of you, Mrs. Davis. Oh, there's Walter to drive me to school. Be right out, Walter. I'd better be going, Mrs. Davis.
All right, dear. Well, I intend to do the rest of my shopping this morning, so I'll drop off your present at school. Maybe you and Mr. Boynton can use it in the cafeteria at lunch.
We might at that. Those chessmen ought to taste a lot more tender than the rest of the food. Walter, is it my imagination, or are you driving more carefully today?
I was hoping you'd notice, dear teacher. Yeah, I'm driving particularly carefully today. You see, as part of her Christmas present, my mother gave me new bumpers for this car.
What happened? Pedestrians finally wear out your old ones? Well, that was a thoughtful gift, but isn't it a little early to be receiving Christmas presents?
Oh, no, ma'am. No, indeed. I must have received 3/4 of my gifts already, particularly from my close friends at school. Oh, yeah, they've already given me their gifts. 3/4 of them. Maybe even 7/8. Matter of fact, I can only think of 1 or 2 who haven't.
Matter of fact, I think I'll get out and walk.
Oh, nothing like the spirit of giving at Christmas, is there? You know, of course, a kid like me who operates on a limited budget can only exchange gifts with his nearest relatives and his closest and most intimate friends. Isn't that so, Miss Brooks?
It certainly is, stranger. That is, in essence, I agree with you, Walter. But the truth of the matter is, I only have $13 for my Christmas shopping. That leaves me with just enough money for a gift for Mr. Boynton. Now, do you understand?
I guess I do. Well, I certainly didn't expect anything from you, Miss Brooks.
I'm glad.
So after all, what difference does it make that I pick you up and drive you to school every day all year round? Or that I spend half of my time at school running errands for you? You do whatever you want to, Miss Brooks. But no one else is going to receive the beautiful present that I selected for you.
You bought me a present? Already?
Now, please forget about it, will you?
All right, then.
Yeah, after all, I'm getting enough gifts without that $7 briefcase of cherries that I've wanted more than anything else in the world.
Walter, I'd like to buy the briefcase for you, but $7 is rather high.
Oh, much too high, Miss Brooks. So I wouldn't let you spend that much money for anything.
Good.
So if you give me $5 in cash, I'll get the same thing at McGinty's.
As I say, $8 ought to buy a fine gift for Mr. Boynton.
Yeah, I have an exclusive introductory credit card at McGinty's. Everything at 1/3 off. It's the only card that'll let you in.
At the moment, that isn't what worries me.
No? What does then, Miss Brooks?
Does McGinty print a card that will let me out? Walter, there's no reason to sneak past Mr. Conklin's office, even if we are 5 minutes late.
But, Miss Brooks, you know how Mr. Conklin feels about such things. What would you say if he suddenly did step out of his office now?
Good morning, Miss Brooks.
Does that answer your question, Walter? Miss Conklin, I realize we're a little late, sir, but if you'll only...
Tut, my dear. Don't give it a second thought. I'm delighted to give my students and faculty a little latitude this time of year. It's the Christmas season, and I'm filled with the spirit of peace on earth and goodwill to all men.
Well, it's nice of you to extend it to females and young boys.
Not at all, Miss Brooks. Now, will you come into my office, please? I have something to ask you.
But, sir, I'm 5 minutes late
and
now.
You'll be 5 minutes later. Into my office.
Yes, sir. See you later, Walter.
Yeah, bye, Miss Brooks.
Now, sit down, my dear. Sit right down, and I'll get directly to the point. I want some advice from you, Miss Brooks.
Some advice?
Yes, about a gift. I'm doing my Christmas shopping this afternoon. I want you to be sure to tell me what you want before I leave.
But, sir, I didn't think you approved of faculty members exchanging gifts.
Oh, I don't, Miss Brooks. It's just that I happen to be imbued with the spirit of giving, the spirit of Christmas. And if I choose to remember my teachers, I certainly don't expect any gifts in return.
Good.
Of course, if my teachers insist on showing their appreciation for the many little favors I've done for them in the past, I'm powerless to stop them.
I'm hooked. I was wondering what I could get you for Christmas, sir. Could you give me a suggestion? Something you particularly needed or wanted for about 50 cents.
My dear, I want you to forget we've even mentioned the word gifts this morning. Dismiss it from your mind. Besides, I smoke too much anyway.
Smoke?
Yes, and $10 is too much for anyone to pay for the alligator tobacco pouch I've always wanted.
Well, sir, I'd certainly like to get it for you, but that is rather expensive.
$10 is...
Now it's Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Well, a couple of times a year, our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, is obliged to invite her principal and his wife over for dinner. On these occasions, the fact that she's extremely fond of Mrs. Conklin and feels rather differently about her principal presents a problem.
Yes. How to sprinkle ground glass in the food without getting them both. I was expecting the Conklins and Mr. Boynton for dinner last Thursday evening, but much to my surprise, Mrs. Conklin came over as I was finishing breakfast that morning.
Good morning, Miss Brooks.
Why, Mrs. Conklin, aren't you a little early? Dinner won't be ready for 11 hours yet.
Oh, it's nothing like that. I had to see you before you went to school today. Oh, Miss Brooks, ever since you mentioned that beaver stole to me 10 days ago, I've decided I wanted it for Christmas more than I wanted anything for a long time.
Well, I think you should have it, Mrs. Conklin.
And so do I. After being married to Osgood for 20 years, I think I deserve a fur piece.
After being married to Osgood for 20 years, you deserve the Brooklyn Bridge. You certainly do.
Well, in the last 10 days, I've tried everything to get it. However, the day before yesterday, I hit upon the perfect solution to my entire problem. But I'm going to need your help. I simply want you to give this special delivery letter to Osgood. It came after he left the house this morning.
That's all you want me to do?
Certainly. The contents of this letter from his cousin really ought to do the trick.
But how do you know the contents?
I wrote it.
You wrote it? Why, I had no idea you were his cousin, too.
Oh, Miss Brooks, Mr. Conklin's cousin is in on this little hoax with me. She sent this letter from Cedarville, where we were married. You see, I asked myself when was the only time Osgood ever gave me everything I wanted. Then I remembered it was when he was courting me. So I decided to have him court me all over again.
But how are you going to manage that?
Well, I got the idea from a movie I saw a few years ago. You see, this letter says that recently it was discovered that the justice of the peace who married us had done so without a license. So, technically, we're not married. Of course, Osgood will try to remarry me, and that's when I have him over a barrel.
I see. Well, it sounds fine, but there might be one possible catch.
What's that, Miss Brooks?
He might enjoy being over the barrel so much you might never get him off.
But, Daddy, I don't think a first Joel is asking for so much. After all, Mother has worked and slaved for us both all these years. Well, you have no idea the hardships she's had to endure.
As soon as I get home, remind me to unstrap her from in front of the plow. Harriet, your mother doesn't know the meaning of the word work. Apparently, all she knows is how to ask for things.
Oh, but Daddy, sure.
No sooner does she learn I'm making $300 extra by going on a lecture tour for Mr. Stone than she wants a first stove. Now, if you'll excuse me, Harriet, I can't think of anyone I'd rather converse with less at the moment. Who is it?
Miss Brooks, sir.
I spoke too soon. To my inner office, please, Harriet.
But, Daddy, can't I wait?
Vamoose, Vixen.
All right.
Come in, Miss Brooks.
Good morning, Mr. Conklin.
What is it, Miss Brooks? Please be as brief as possible. As you can see, I have a desk piled high with paper.
Yes, sir. Those crossword puzzles do pile up if you don't get... I have a letter for you, sir. Your wife called and asked me if I'd drop it off. She thought it might be important. It's from your cousin in Cedarville.
Special delivery. Marked urgent. Goodness, I haven't heard from my cousin in 5 years. The last time she wrote me, her letter contained extremely bad news. Missy, I dread reading it. Well, might as well get it over with. Good.
Must be terrible news, huh? Awful news. Simply dreadful, huh? Horrible? I had no idea the news could be that bad.
Miss Brooks, I'm not married.
That's terrible, sir. Simply terrible. What happened?
Well, it seems there was a little mistake about my marriage, Miss Brooks. A remarkable little mistake. It seems the justice of the peace who married us wasn't really a justice of the peace at all.
Then who was he?
The best friend a man ever had.
I'm dead. Oh, but, sir, this is dreadful. Simply dreadful. After all these years. Well, you must remarry at once.
But who?
I'm Mrs. Conklin, that's who.
Oh, it's great to be single. My pockets will jingle.
Your justice of the peace isn't really a justice of the peace either.
I prefer to remember him as a great humanitarian.
Well, Mrs. Conklin, I'm afraid you'll have to bring up your heavy artillery.
Oh, I'm afraid you're right, Miss Brooks. Osgood, I have a little confession to make. I had that letter sent to you. It was a hoax. We've been married all this time.
My, what an unusual way to go down on one's knees.
A hoax? Mrs. Conklin, may I ask a question?
You might as well. There's plenty of room down there for all.
It was about Mrs. Stone, Charlie. You're still married to her and always have been.
So we're both still married. I guess the joke is on both of us, eh, Mr. Stone? Seems your wife is still...
Keep my beloved wife out of this. Oh, you must be quite a miserly tyrant, Conklin. Otherwise, why should your poor wife have to resort to such pitiful measures to obtain that which is rightfully hers?
But I fully intend to buy her that beaver stove.
This time, let's put it in writing. Well, you see, Mr. Boynton, even though married couples do have little... Mr. Boynton? Mr. Boynton?
He sneaked out to the kitchen 5 minutes ago, Miss Brooks.
Well, after all this talk about marriage, I don't blame him for going out there.
Why? What do you mean?
Flu and all, at her age, Mrs. Davis is the safest bet.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, was produced and directed by Larry Burns, written by Arthur Alsberg and Al Lewis with the music of Lud Bluskin. Mr. Conklin was played by Gail Gordon. This program came to you from the Festive Studios of the American Forces Network Europe and was prepared for rebroadcast over this network by specialist Rich Kuhlman.
now, Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Well, with the Christmas holidays so close at hand, our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, is faced with a few problems common to many of us. First, she still has all her Christmas shopping to do, and second, she has very little time to do it in.
And third, she has no money to do it with. At least I have very little money. $20 to be exact. And considering the people I usually give presents to, I knew that wouldn't go very far. After thinking it over for a while, however, I arrived at the only possible solution to my dilemma, which I conveyed to my landlady at breakfast last Wednesday morning.
Then you're going to spend the entire $20 on a gift for Mr. Boynton, Connie?
Yes, it's the only thing I can do, Mrs. Davis. I think I should be able to get him a nice gift for $20. It's better than giving a number of my friends a lot of trash. Don't you agree?
I suppose so, dear. I know I certainly didn't expect anything from you.
Well, I'm glad.
After all, what difference does it make that I cook your meals all year round? That I make up your room every day? That I never badger you for the rent when you get 6 weeks behind? Or that I'm constantly helping you with your problems as if you were my own daughter? I do it out of the goodness of my heart. And I certainly don't expect anything in return.
If I crawled under the rug, I wouldn't even make a bump. But, Mrs. Davis, we agreed we wouldn't exchange presents this year.
Of course we did, Connie. So you stick to our agreement. After all, what difference does it make if I happen to forget and ordered you a beautiful gift?
You ordered me a gift?
Oh, dear, it slipped out.
Well, slip it back in. Perhaps it wasn't as much of a sacrifice for you as...
What difference does it make that I far exceeded my budget to get it for you? So I'll just eat a little less for the next 6 months. Just because the spirit of the season has swept me away doesn't mean it has to sweep you, too.
Sweep me? It might easily clean me out. Well, I suppose I actually should give you a gift, too, since we're so close.
Now, dear, you'll do no such thing. Don't give it another thought.
Well, all right, but...
I've been getting along perfectly well, squeezing oranges by hand for another year. Just because I can hardly straighten out my poor fingers when I'm through is no concern of yours.
Then you want a finger straightener. An orange juice squeezer.
Why, Connie, how did you know?
It was just a wild guess.
But the $10 they wanted cherries is much more than I'll let you spend.
Well, then I won't.
So if you'll just give me $7 cash, I'll get the squeezer at McGinty's Sales Company. I happen to have an exclusive introductory credit card there. It's the only thing that lets you in, and it entitles you to a third off on everything.
As I say, I should be able to get Mr. Boynton a nice gift for $13. I'll give you the money as soon as...
Miss Brooks, I feel like a bird who's just been let out of his cage. A convict who has just been released from jail.
Oh, if Mr. Boynton's anywhere around, I'm cooked. So then I suppose you and Mrs. Conklin won't be coming over for dinner tonight.
I and Martha Fleischacker will be delighted. We'll be delighted to come for dinner.
Martha Fleischacker?
My wife's maiden name.
No wonder she changed it to Conklin. Then you are coming over, sir?
Oh, certainly. I can't wait to get together with Boynton and discuss the good old single life.
Well, if you must discuss it, Mr. Conklin, at least don't do it in the presence of Mrs. Davis.
Why not, Miss Brooks?
The way things stand now, she's the only one left who might marry me. Well, Mrs. Conklin's hoax to convince our principal that they were never really married, and thereby get a fur coat when he re-courted her, backfired rather badly. So all morning long, I did my best to keep Mr. Boynton away from our ecstatic principal. The last time I stopped him occurred as he was leaving his laboratory just before noon. Why, Mr. Boynton, where are you going with those rabbit cages this time of day?
Well, I didn't think you'd mind if I took my rabbits, Henry and George, to lunch with us, Miss Brooks.
Not at all, Mr. Boynton. Maybe one of them will pick up the check.
It will certainly save me a trip. Otherwise, I'd have to come all the way back here with them after I see Mr. Conklin.
After you see Mr. Conklin?
Yes. I wanted to see the condition these cages are in. It's the only way I can persuade him to give me the money for some new ones.
Oh, well, today's the wrong day for that.
But you said that to me twice before today about two other things. It almost seems as if you don't want me to see him.
Oh, now, Mr. Boynton, wherever did you get such a fantastic idea? Why shouldn't I want you to see him?
Oh, I don't know why. The few times I did catch sight of him today, he seemed excited and happy about something. I wonder what it is. Oh, well, I'll probably find out about it when I see him at your house tonight.
Tonight? Oh, I knew there was something I had to tell you, Mr. Boynton. The dinner for tonight has been canceled. Mrs. Davis is very ill.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry, Miss Brooks. Must have come on quite suddenly. Oh, what is it, flu? Virus? Bronchitis?
That's right.
Which one is it?
Take your pick. It's the flu, Mr. Boynton. So, of course, we won't be able to make it, but any other night would be just fine.
Hi, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, hello, Walter.
Boy, wait till you hear the latest about old Marblehead. Mr. Conklin. He's declared tomorrow a half holiday and commissioned one of the kids to go out and buy up all the fireworks he can find. Everyone thinks that Mr. Conklin's finally snapped his cap.
You mean he's crazy?
Yeah, as screwy as a hopped-up cucaracha and a bowl of hot chili. Oh, by the way, Miss Brooks, Harriet told me if I ran into you that Mr. Conklin wanted to see you. There's something about canceling his date with you tonight. But be careful when you go into his office.
Well, perhaps I'd better go along with you, Miss Brooks, in case he gets violent.
Oh, don't worry about me, Mr. Boynton. I have a way with violent men. And if you don't believe me, please try me sometime.
Oh, it's nice to be single, my pockets will jingle. Principal's office, Osgood Conklin himself speaking. Over.
Hello, Osgood. This is Mr. Stone.
Oh, yes, Mr. Stone. How are you, sir?
Conklin, I just had a thought that should make you very happy. How would you like to take Mrs. Conklin along on your lecture tour? Conklin? Hello? Conklin, can you hear me?
I'm afraid I can.
What happened? Were you cut off?
Only my windpipe. That is, I was choked with happiness.
Good, good.
Mr. Stone, is it absolutely essential that I take Mrs. Conklin along? I mean,
yes, Conklin, it is essential. Is your wife free to go?
Sir, she's been free to go for the past 20 years. I mean, yes, of course she is.
Then she goes along regardless of what. Those are orders.
Yes, sir, regardless of what. Goodbye, sir. Well, Osgood, I guess there's no other choice. It's delightful to be married. To be married. Come in.
Mr. Conklin, I understand you want to cancel the dinner engagement at my house. I guess you've decided to go out on the town to celebrate your newly found freedom.
Freedom? Oh, it's true, Miss Brooks. I did have some wild thoughts when you first handed me that letter this morning, but after a little sober reflection, there is nothing I want more than to be welcomed back into the warmth, comfort, and security of my happy little prison. Home, home.
Well, there's nothing standing in your way, is there, sir?
Oh,